This is my year in review. It's the end of the year, so it's time to look back on 2017 and all the cars I filmed with. I'm going to tell you the best cars, the worst cars, and a lot of other stuff. So let's get to it. I'm going to start with a few numbers, and when I get into them, I'm sorry if it looks like I'm reading them off a screen. That's because I am. There are a lot of numbers. Now, I filmed with 99 different cars this year, including my own, and I've come up with some interesting statistics about them. Number one, the average value of a car I filmed with in 2017 was $176,323. Now, I always get complaints that I'm not filming with enough affordable cars, but I did film with 34 cars this year worth $50,000 or less, and 20 cars worth $30,000 or less. Still, with that said, I also filmed with 13 cars worth $300,000 or more, which is always a nerve-wracking experience. The most expensive car I filmed with this year was this week's 1963 Ferrari 250 GT Lusso, likely worth somewhere around $2.5 million. The least expensive car I filmed with this year, well, that was my own used Range Rover, and the Pontiac Aztek tied somewhere around $5,000 in value. Next up, horsepower. The average horsepower of all 99 cars I filmed with in 2017 was 424. The least powerful car I filmed with was the BMW Isetta with only 13 horsepower, followed by my own, now sold Nissan S-Cargo with 73 horsepower, and then the Mitsubishi Mirage with 78 horsepower. The most powerful cars, number one, would be the Porsche 918 Spyder with 887 horsepower, followed by the Lamborghini Aventador SV with 740 horsepower, and the McLaren 720S with 710 horsepower. Okay, cylinders. I filmed 7 4-cylinder cars, 23 6-cylinder cars, 47 V8s, 3 V10s, and 15 cars with 12 cylinders. I also filmed the 2-stroke BMW Isetta, 2 electric cars, that would be the Chevy Bolt and the Tesla Model 3, and 1 rotary-powered car, that would be the Mazda RX-7 FD. Okay, doors. I filmed 2 cars in the last year that only had 1 door. That would be the Ferret Tank and the BMW Isetta. Of the remaining 97 cars, 68 of them had 2 doors, and 29 had 4 doors. Or some of those had 5 doors if you consider a hatchback or an SUV to be a 5-door. But you get what I mean. Next up, transmissions. 36 of the 99 cars I filmed with this year had a manual transmission, meaning that 63 of the 99 had an automatic. And by manual, I mean a true manual with 3 pedals, not a manual like those idiots on AutoTrader who list cars with sequential manuals as manual just because they have paddle shifters. Country of origin. I filmed 1 Swedish car this year. That would be the Volvo XC90 Excellence. I filmed 1 car from the Netherlands, the Spyker C8 Spyder. And I filmed 1 car from Australia, and that would be the Holden Ute. Of the remaining 96 cars, 26 came from Germany, 22 from Italy, 21 from the United States, 17 were British, and 10 were Japanese. As for model year, the oldest car I filmed this year was this week's Ferrari 250 GT Lusso, along with the Ferret armored car and the BMW Isetta, all from the 1960s. I filmed with 3 2018 models, the Lexus LC500, the Aston Martin Vanquish S Volante, and the new Jeep Wrangler. I also filmed with 29 2017 models, but the average year of a car I filmed with this year was 2006. Location. I filmed videos this year in 3 different countries, 1 in Canada, 4 in the United Arab Emirates, and the remaining 94 in the United States. Now, I filmed in 12 US states this year. Pennsylvania, where I live, had the most videos with 26, followed by New Jersey with 13, Virginia with 12, and California with 10. And finally, brand. My top brand that I filmed with this year was Ferrari. I filmed 12 Ferraris. Tied for second were Mercedes-Benz and Porsche with 8 each, followed by BMW and Lamborghini with 6, Ford with 5, and McLaren and Land Rover with 4 each. In all, I filmed videos this year with cars from 38 different brands. And now for the honors, starting with the 3 best cars I filmed this year, and for that I turned straight to the Doug score. Number 3, the Ferrari 488 Spider, which I filmed in the bitter cold in northern New Jersey. It was frigid, but it was still clear that this is one of the best Ferrari models ever. Number 2, the McLaren 720S, which I filmed at McLaren Philadelphia. This was a truly amazing car, even more thrilling than the Ferrari with very few drawbacks. And finally, number 1, the Porsche 918 Spider, probably the best objective car I've ever driven. I filmed this in Nashville and spent 6 hours alone with the car, and I enjoyed every minute. Next up, the 3 most memorable cars I filmed this year. Number 3 would have to be the Ferrari 250 GT Lusso, which I filmed in Dubai. It'll be a long time before I forget driving around Dubai in a $3 million Ferrari, jet lagged from having landed just the night before. Number 2 is the Lamborghini LM002, which I filmed with my friend Jordan in New Jersey. I've always wanted to drive one, and this is one car that lived up to every bizarre expectation I had for it. I wish I could afford to buy and maintain one. Finally, number 1 by far is the Ferrari F40, an automotive icon. I filmed this one right here in Philadelphia, and I'll always remember driving it down Interstate 95 next to Hyundais and Fords as if I wasn't piloting one of the greatest and most expensive cars ever to exist. Next, the 3 worst cars I filmed this year. Once again, back to the Doug score, and this one's easy. We'll start at number 3 with the Ferret armored car, which I filmed in Nashville. It was horrible to drive around, but at the same time, tremendously fun. Still, its low Doug score reflects its usability, which is minimal. Number 2, the Mitsubishi Mirage, which I filmed in the San Francisco Bay Area. It's a cheap, sad little car I hope to never encounter again. And finally, number 1, the BMW Isetta, which I filmed in the Philadelphia suburbs. This car broke down on me while I was filming it, though I'd argue that with only 13 horsepower and 1 door, it was never really running properly to begin with. And next up, the biggest surprises of 2017. This time I have to do 4 because I couldn't narrow this list down to just 3 vehicles. The Mercedes G65 AMG was the number 4 biggest surprise. I filmed this video in Los Angeles. I've always loved the G-Wagon, but I don't think I quite realized how outdated and awful it's become, especially at this dollar value, and I was surprised at just how bad it was. Next up, the Mercedes SLS AMG, which I filmed in Northern Virginia. I'm always surprised when I get in a Mercedes that actually handles well, and this thing was truly among the best. Far more precise and rewarding than the all-engine car I thought it would be. Number 2 is the Jeep Trackhawk, which I filmed in Maryland. I knew it would be fast, but I didn't expect it to be that fast, truly, and I was insanely surprised by it. And finally, number 1 is the Shelby GT350R, which I also filmed in Maryland. It looks like a Mustang, it feels like a Mustang. It's actually one of the best performance cars I've ever driven, and one of the best noises. Which leads us right into the next category, which is cars I want. These are the cars I drove this year that I actually want to buy, which means that I'm eliminating all the crazy $1 million, $300,000 plus supercars. These are the cars that I actually want to take home with me. And contrary to popular belief, when I finish filming a video, even with a great car, I don't always want to own it, but sometimes I do. To me, this is the most important year-end category. Now this time I have to expand it to 5 vehicles because I drove 5 cars this year that actively made me go home after I finished driving them, get on AutoTrader, and start searching. Number 5, the 2017 Ford F-150 Raptor. A pickup won't work with my lifestyle, and I think the Raptor is a bit too in-your-face for me, but it drives incredibly well and I love it. And I want one. Number 4, the Mercedes CLK 63 AMG Black Series, which is a lot more fun and more rowdy than I expected it to be. If these were a little cheaper and if they didn't have the engine head bolt issue, I'd want one. Badly. Number 3, the R34 Nissan Skyline GTR. I can't have one of these because there are like a dozen legal ones in the United States and they're very expensive, but when they turn 25 and I can import one, I'd really like to. Number 2 is the Shelby GT350R, which was truly amazing. The interior was only okay, I don't really love the look, and yet the drive was sublime with an amazing sound and awesomely precise steering. I wish these were cheaper. And number 1 is the BMW 1 Series M, which is just the perfect car for me and still the greatest all-around car I've ever driven, possibly aside from the Porsche Cayman GT4. I have no idea why I don't own one of these yet. Next up, the 3 most popular videos of 2017. Number 3 in climbing is the Tesla Model 3 with 3.5 million views. I was among the first to review the new Model 3, and getting this video filmed was some of the hardest work I've ever done, as I filmed it in California one afternoon in early November, then I edited it on a red-eye flight back to the East Coast, posted it, and then caught another flight to Dubai. It was worth it, and Elon Musk retweeted it a few weeks ago. Number 2 is the Lamborghini Aventador SV, which I shot last winter in Virginia. I was really lucky when the owner of this car, who's on social media as Blue Whiskey, reached out to me, as it was the hottest, newest, most expensive car at the time, and I'm not surprised it's at 3.8 million views. But number 1 by far is the Ford GT, which just crossed 7 million views. I filmed this video in Utah, and it was an early look at probably the most desirable supercar of 2017. Next, we move on to the top 3 quirks of 2017, which is a very competitive category, but, well, here they are. First off, honorable mention to the Volkswagen Phaeton sun visor mirror, which has 2 magnifications, the Lamborghini Harama radio placement, which is truly insane, and the Ford GT's ability to lower itself instantly when you change drive modes. But none of those win. The winners are these. Number 3, the gear lever in the Spyker C8. Actually, the entire Spyker C8 could probably take up this entire category, but the gear lever with the exposed linkage is the coolest quirk, and just listen to it. Number 2, the tent in the Pontiac Aztek. I love the Pontiac Aztek, I love the stupid tent, and I'm eternally grateful to the owner of this car for setting up the tent for me in a middle school parking lot. People still ask me about the Aztek and its tent all the time, and it is, in fact, hilariously ridiculous. Finally, the number 1 quirk of 2017, to me it's obvious, the BMW Z1's doors. I devoted like 5 minutes in my BMW Z1 video just to the doors, but I promise you'll never again see such a comprehensive tour of how to operate these things. This demonstration also got me on the front page of Reddit, which was pretty cool. And finally, the 3 videos that surprised me most with their popularity. Number 3 simply has to be the Cadillac Escalade. I filmed this in Utah because it was the best car on Turo in Salt Lake City, and I never thought 2.5 million people would care for a tour of a car you see all the time on the road, but they did. Number 2 is the 1996 Rolls-Royce Silver Spirit. I knew this would do well, but I never thought it would do this well, and I still remember how shocked I was to see so many people tuning in to watch a used Rolls-Royce you can buy for like 25 grand. Finally, number 1, the Hummer H2. I filmed this video quickly in a parking lot in Florida, and I accidentally left off some stuff. I didn't think that many people would watch, but it blew up to well over 2 million views. This was the first video where I realized I didn't need to film supercars to make popular content, something I'm glad I learned early on. And so that's my year in review, but before I go, let me focus on one other interesting topic. YouTube gives me an enormous amount of analytics about who's watching my videos, and here are some of the most interesting stats. Now, admittedly, I'm filming this on December 21, so things might change between then and now when you're watching it, but, well, here they are. Starting with views, this year I got 198,539,000 views. Wow. Subscribers is even crazier to me. I added 853,000 new subscribers this year. I got 2.9 million likes and 242,000 dislikes, which is a nice ratio, 93.3% likes. Overall this year, I got 500,900 comments. So don't be too disappointed if I don't reply to yours. As for my audience, you're 96.9% male. 51% of you come from the United States. Canada is next with 7.2%, followed by the UK with 5.5%, Germany with 2.8%, India with 2.7%. I get a lot of emails from India, that's always surprised me, followed by Australia and the Netherlands. Now, funny story about the Netherlands. Back in September, I went to Amsterdam with my wife on vacation. We landed at the Amsterdam airport. I was going through customs, and I pulled out my passport and I gave it to the customs agent, and he looked at it and he said, "Oh yeah, I watch your videos." Obviously, I was shocked, but I know there are a lot of people watching. And so to him and to all of you, Happy New Year. Thank you for watching in 2017, and I promise there is a lot of great stuff to come in 2018.